What will be the next big animated project like Clone Wars for Star Wars? The Bad Batch was the successor to Clone Wars, and it lasted 3 seasons and focused primarily on the Bad Batch, obviously. And while I think the Bad Batch was a solid show overall, it definitely had some issues, and I think a lot of it pertained to it focusing too much on the Bad Batch. I think if it would have took an approach like Clone Wars, where we were set in a post-Order 66 world and focused on a bunch of different stories and had arcs just like the Clone Wars, that it would have been a series that easily could have gone on much longer than it did, while also still remaining fresh and exciting. I think if they took the Tales series and just made it longer in both episodes and runtime, that it could be a really interesting series that could do some cool stuff with characters we want to see more from. Unless Dave Filoni does some sort of live action Clone Wars series, I don't think we're going to see much of the prequel era in live action Star Wars going forward. So it would be really cool to get an anthology animated project that can span multiple eras and seasons and characters. And again, I think the Tales series hits on some of what I'm talking about, but it's more of a precursor to what could be a much cooler and bigger idea. But most of this is going to depend on what the plan is for Disney Plus going forward. We've seen that Disney wants to limit some of the Marvel stuff and kind of size down on all of that. So it'll be interesting to see how this affects Lucasfilm and the animation department for Star Wars. If we look back at the Clone Wars, it was stated that the budget for each episode was around $1 million per episode, but that was also all the way back in 2008, when technology was less developed than it is now for animation. And I do remember Dave Filoni talking about this in an interview where they were able to make Clone Wars Season 7 look better for less money than previous seasons of the Clone Wars. And all of the Star Wars live action shows on Disney Plus have had pretty sizable budgets. It would be interesting to compare that to how much it costs to do all of the animation we've seen for Disney Star Wars, but hopefully going forward we don't see less Star Wars animation than we've been seeing. And the final thought to all of this is we may never see the next Clone Wars in terms of a project that was animated in the same size and scope. It was obviously George Lucas's passion project, and Filoni was a huge Star Wars fan that was hired by George, and I think they were both just locked in and ready to kind of tell these awesome stories. And, you know, obviously Clone Wars wasn't amazing during the first couple seasons. It was definitely a rocky road, and then it kind of built up in season 4 and 5, and it got canceled, and then it got brought back and made record numbers on Disney Plus. I still really enjoyed the early seasons of Clone Wars, but I can definitely see how some were skeptical at the start of it. But I really do hope that the Star Wars animation department stays strong going forward and we get to see a lot of cool animated shows and stories. But I'm really curious, what do you think the next animated project like Clone Wars could be for Star Wars? And do you think we will ever get a longer standing series that lasts at least like 5 seasons? Be sure to let us know in the comments below.